Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoble, and you are on the lifeboat. I got a 5x5. I feel like I played with my volume earlier today when I was on someone else's channel, and I feel like I'm screaming at you guys. Am I super loud or am I all right? All right. So it's nice to see so many of you lovely faces here this evening. We've kind of been doing a series here on the boat. Thank you all. Appreciate you. We've kind of been doing a series of sorts here on the boat where we've been talking a lot about the mind and why it is that we kind of fight this uphill battle. And it occurred to me that in the last 4 or 5 days, the number of brand new people that I've spoken to is insane. Right? It's one of the fastest growing times that we've had on the boat. And I'm talking to a lot of people who are either thinking about getting sober, or they just got sober, or they've been sober a really long time. And the ones that have been sober a really long time, they stop in, they say, hey, love what you're doing. I'm going to be in the comment section. It's good to be here. The people that just quit are looking for some guidance, and the people that haven't quit yet obviously need a little inspiration and a little guidance. And it's difficult to not be jaded when you've talked to as many people about recovery as I have. It's hard not to walk away from each one and think to yourself, this person's going to make it, or this person's not going to make it. It's not cool on my part. It really isn't. And it's something that I struggle with, but I do it. I promise you I do it. It's just human nature. I think probably most people will do something like that to some degree, but what it comes down to virtually every single time is whatever the attitude is that these people take into their recovery. And you know what? Doesn't matter if it's recovery. Insert whatever you want there. Doesn't matter if you've ever done dope, because it's the same crap over and over and over again. We need to make a change. There's something in our life we're not happy with, and it's game time. So right now, we need to make a change. And that is where most people find themselves. If they carry an attitude into this that they're going to win. And that's the attitude that they stormtrooper this thing, then the odds are really in their favor. And if the attitude is not that, then guess what? They're going to fail. It doesn't matter whether they journal, they do everything right. You still have to bring in an attitude that sets you up for success. Let me give you a perfect example. If your substance of choice is opiates, depending on who you believe, the success rate is in the single digits, okay? But you hear the term 80% or 20% long-term success, right? So 20% of people that get into recovery actually achieve long-term success, which means there's an 8 out of 10 failure rate, right? We all know that to be the truth. And people will say to me in the beginning, what's the success rate with people trying to get off of this garbage? And I have to say to them, well, about 20% are going to make it. Now, you say the same thing to 100 people, but 5 of them here, 20 people did it, right? 5 of them here, 20 people did it. I can do it. If 20 out of 100 can do it, you bet your ass I'm going to be in that 20, right? That is an attitude. And that's the winning attitude. That's the attitude that's going to get somebody to the finish line, right? Doesn't mean they're not going to have bad days. They're going to have crap days. But you have to start getting to the point where you can visualize yourself living without this substance, visualizing success. You watch an Olympic athlete on the top of the hill getting ready to ski. Whether that person is a freestyler or whether that person skis downhill or giant slalom, they sit at the top and you can see 60 of them getting ready to go. And all of them are off in an area and they got their eyes closed. Very often they've got tunes cranked and they're literally doing the run in their head, what they've got to do, where they've got to do it. They visualize this so many times. And if it's a famous run, right? If it's the Hahnenkamm or they're on a very famous trail that they've probably competed on 40 times in their life, right? They find out the Olympics are being held, in Kitzbühel, Austria, and they know what the downhill course is going to be. They can start doing that visualization at their house. Right? That course changes very little from year to year. What makes it unique is the actual terrain that gets covered by snow. So subtleties, but the run's the same. And these people visualize it. Do you know why this works? This is astonishing. But these unbelievable computing devices that we've got sitting up here between our ears can't figure out the difference between a memory and you visualizing yourself winning. This is no joke. If you visualize, for the people that really do this and can sit and get into it and visualize themselves successfully doing what it is they're attempting to do, those people are successful to a degree that is so far beyond anybody else, right? When you start looking at anybody that's trying to do anything, those who can visualize success ahead of time will achieve that success. When the time comes for you to actually do it, your brain is far more accepting because as far as it's concerned, oh, we've done this before. This is a memory. We've done this before. We're doing it again. And if you visualize it every night for 6 months, your brain's going, how many times have we done this? Right? I've told the story many times about a guy that was a prisoner of war who was kept in a cage, not tall enough to stand up in. And he wrote a book. It's a horrifying story. It's during the Vietnam era. But the last thing that this pilot watched before he got shot down was the Bob Hope Desert Classic, which is played in Pebble Beach. And he would sit in his cage and play golf in his head. And when he was finally released, they actually took him out there and he shot. And he was in the 80s and people were freaking out about it because you just don't do that at Pebble Beach, right? Especially just coming out, And he said, when they said to him, people were really amazed at how well you did. He said, how well I did. He said, I 3-putted like 3 greens. He said, the whole time I was over there, that never happened to me once. The brain doesn't know the difference between visualization and memory. It's not built that way. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But it doesn't, which is the same reason that we get anxiety attacks because it doesn't know the difference between a memory and what's really happening. When you relive trauma from your past and your palms begin to sweat and your breathing begins to change, and all of a sudden you start to stress yourself out and you don't know your brain doesn't realize it's not right back in that car accident. It's not right back in that, domestic violence situation or that abuse situation. It can't distinguish between then, now, back then, future. It doesn't work like that. If you start to understand this, well, then there's really quite a bit that we can do to play with our gray matter to get us prepared for this whole success concept, maybe a little bit better than we've been doing it, huh? One of the things that you have to realize is that we are built really, really uniquely, right? We are an amazing device, but a little bit of info about that device goes a long way. If you put 50 people in a room, you show all 50 people the exact same thing, and you show it to them from the exact same vantage point, from the same place, you're going to get 50 different descriptions of what happened. Everybody's seeing the exact same thing, right? But they're all seeing it through their eyes. And we color things, don't we? Like we're getting ready to go to a party. And I'm inviting all of my friends from the lifeboat, right? It's going to be about 6,100 of you who will be coming as my Tommy +1. And on the way over there in our very large bus, we start to talk. And somebody says, the girl that's hosting this party, right? The one that just got engaged, she's a stripper, right? Her fiance doesn't know this, but this girl is an exotic dancer. And the word is that she might even be, maybe doing more than that. Maybe she's doing some things with customers. It's kind of a bad situation. We walk into that room and every single person who comes with us is going to look at that girl in a completely different way than if the conversation on the way over there was, yeah, this girl works on weekends. She volunteers at soup kitchens. Just an amazing girl. She speaks 3 languages. Right now she has 2 degrees and she's going back to school, but she only wants to do something if it is going to benefit society. She's been talking a lot about the Peace Corps, right? Now we walk into this party and every person from the lifeboat looks over and goes, oh, damn, she's pretty too, isn't she? How sweet. Same girl, right? Same 6,100 people. But how you bring an attitude into any situation is going to very much color how you see what you're about to embark on. Does this make sense? For those of you who are new to the boat, there's 1,000 videos. If you watch all of them, you'll get all the dirt on me. right? Because I spill it all. At one time or another, I'll tell you every secret that I got because I pretty much ran out of material and I had to, right? But one of those secrets is this: for a very long time, I was right on the edge of just being a full-fledged con man. And I don't mean I wasn't stealing from anybody, right? Not literally, but what I was doing was hellaciously unethical. It absolutely was legal. And we were able to do what we did because we were really good salespeople. But what we were doing was not ethical by any stretch of the imagination. However, it's what we did. And there was a good deal of money in it. We were actually able to make quite a bit of money. But I remember going to an interview during this period of time. And I've told the story on the boat before, but I went to this interview with my older brother, my brother Johnny, Chase the Heat. And when we got in there, there was probably, I don't know, maybe 12 of us, 15 of us, something like that in a room, a large room. And the guy comes in to do his presentation and he's dressed to the nines. He's got on a very nice suit and a decent watch, but he came in and he said, okay, this is a sales job and it is, it's telemarketing. He said, this isn't trying to get somebody to switch their phone service, right? This isn't, the Kathy calling from AT&T to see if you want to change your service to save money. No, this was a heavy, this was heavy telemarketing where you can make $2,000 on one phone call, right? So the guy says, listen, there's no money in this except commission, nothing. We don't pay you $1 to train you, right? We do not pay you an hourly wage. If you do not sell, you do not bring home any money. You're not an employee. You're a general contractor that we're bringing in here and we're looking for hatchet men. So if you're looking to get an hourly wage or whatever, this isn't your spot. And everybody in that room listened to that speech. But my brother and I heard 20% commission, right? Because we're not paying any hourly wage, we're able to pay up to 20 points on the commission. We heard 20%. Well, the rest of the people heard, we're not going to pay you while you get trained. And we're not going to pay you an hourly wage. So 3/4 of that room heard, you can't make any money in this place, right? I'm going to go broke in this building. And a handful of people heard, this is it, right? They're going to get out of my way. They're going to dump a pile of leads on the desk and I can go to town. Funny thing, they had an account in there that was called Project Refund. And there were a lot of nicknames for Project Refund. One was Project Reject. The other was an R word that if you say these days, they cancel you, right? But it used to be a pretty popular word in the 80s. Anyway, Project Refund, they could not get anybody to work this program. They couldn't get anybody to look at it. Why? Because somewhere along the line, somebody talked about what a dog with fleas this was. And it was somebody that had a halfway decent reputation in our industry at the time. So people wouldn't do it. And they got desperate because they pay for this. These leads don't appear. They had to create a lead. And they were trying desperately to get someone to work the leads. And when my brother got there, I said to him, we're not going to have leads for a couple of days. So what we're going to do is get things organized and this and that. And eventually Johnny was like, what's the deal with this stuff? And I said, well, that's Project Reject. I said, nobody works that. It's just, and he said, well, what's the deal? I said, it's a $2,000 sale, caps at that. You can't go above that. Some of the packages we were selling were $15,000, right? So a guy doesn't want to sell a $2,000 package. And he said, what's the rip? What's the commission? I said, believe it or not, $1,000. Now, he wasn't there when some stud said, you can't make any money in this. So all Johnny heard was a $2,000 sale with a $1,000 commission. This is a 50% payout. And I said, yeah, but he said, no, just give me a pile of them. So I gave him like 7 inches of these leads, right? Knock yourself out. And he did 20 of them in a week, $20,000. If you don't think that changed the attitude, right, at this boiler room for these leads, they didn't change. The opportunity, nothing changed except the attitude of 25 salespeople, right? Who were getting ready to throw elbows and punches for a shot to start calling people from Project Refund. Now, in the spirit of what the real world is, our company rolled back the commission structure once they found out that somebody could do 20 of them in a week. As usual, their hands started to shake when they had to write my brother a $20,000 check, which took the starch out of them, and they changed the commission structure. Not that that's here or there, but you understand what I'm saying? Attitude is what determines somebody's success or failure, I don't give a crap about all of the other books written. It comes down to your attitude. It really does. And you say, well, Tommy, how do you have a good attitude while you're at the end of your rope, right? You can't have a positive attitude when you're dope sick and you've been, on this crap for 30 years and you can't get off. You're right. You can't. You can't. The attitude is going to shift and adjust, right? The attitude is going to shift and adjust throughout the walk in your sobriety. And in the beginning, the positive attitude doesn't have to be, I'm Tommy and I'm going to take over the world. I'm so excited about this. My attitude was, I'm not going to do dope today, right? Honestly, I would look in the mirror doing the daily affirmations and I'd be like, I'm giving this stupid black dude one more day for real. I'll give him one more day, man, because I kept waiting for him to throw a switch, right? Q was going to say the magic words, and all of a sudden, the suffering was going to be over, right? The pain was going to be over. Like all of those things were just going to disappear. Well, that didn't happen. But I would vow to get through the day. And my attitude was, I'm not doing dope today. And I linked enough of those together where I had a little bit of sobriety time. And then I started to work on things. People, I was not an overnight success. I wasn't even an overnight success at being sober. Now, I mean, granted, it took me 46 years to get sober. But the act of getting sober, I did really poorly. I mean, that's just the truth. I wasn't very good at any of this process, but I was damn willing, to try. And it came slowly. I got to base camp. I wasn't happy overnight, people. It took a long, long time. It did. But the one thing that I had going for me was I had absolutely no intention of not being in the 20% of people who are successful in their attempts to rehabilitate. I was going to be in that 20%. And to be really, really honest, that's not what I heard. What I heard was the heroin numbers where they said 2 out of 100 for guys. 2 out of 100 are actually going to successfully long-term kick needle heroin use. And I said, I can be that too, right? I can be that too. I don't care if it was 1 out of 100 or if it was 1 out of 200 or 1 out of 500. I was going to be that person. You know why? Because I tried the other way, right? For a really long period of time, I tried the other way. And the other way doesn't work for me, right? I can't do it. I can't handle that drug. I can't control that drug. When I'm on it, I am not me. I am one of the lowest of the lows, right? So for me, attitude has become hands down the most important part of everything that I do, everything. And for that reason, it's probably what I spend the most time journaling on. You'll hear people talk about a gratitude journal, right? Or just journaling about gratitude. I do it all of the time. I think it's for me, it is one of the most, if not the most important exercise that I can do because it is so easy. It is so easy to talk about the 1 or 2 things that are really bothering you and to never let it stop. Have you ever met those people that are still complaining about something that happened with you 5 years ago? And the attitude is, it's never going to get any better. That's it. This is what it is going to be. And this is in every aspect of life. There's a billion stories, people, of teams or towns or entire generations. World War II was won by a bunch of kids, right? That weren't smart enough to realize that they couldn't win. They had an attitude, right? We weren't in need of a draft after Pearl Harbor, right? There was no need for a draft. Every single person in this country was thinking the exact same thing. There were stories of guys that got deferred because of, this or that, asthma, whatever, who took their own lives. The attitude of this country was, it's not going to happen, right? An entire generation said, this is not going to happen. This person's not taking over the world. We're not going to allow it to happen. And we cranked out more airplanes and more tanks and more guns and more everything than the world ever thought possible right? We had housewives who were riveting planes together and working 16-hour days. You talk about a country and a group of people who all developed the same attitude at the same time. The World War II museum here in the U.S. is in New Orleans. And that seems like an odd place, doesn't it? To put the World War II museum. You would think maybe Washington, D.C., right? That might be logical, or maybe something like Norfolk, or someplace where there's, a military installation of some kind or whatever. But the reason it is, the reason that the museum was given to New Orleans is because the landing craft that you see in all of the movies like Saving Private Ryan, when those Jeep-looking things that just drop into the water and act like a boat, and then when they come up onto the beach, the front drops open and all the guys come running off of those things. Okay, those landing boats were built in New Orleans. And it had to be hush-hush. They were doing everything they could to try to build a ton of these and be slick for D-Day. And they did it in New Orleans. And there were times apparently where there were people there that went a couple of weeks without compensation because of how the channels were going and everything else. And these people just kept going to work and just kept doing what they were doing. And they just kept quietly cranking these things out. And it had such an effect on the war that when it was all said and done, they said, without this town, without these people and the attitude of that city, there's no D-Day. This doesn't happen. The attitude that you adopt for your sobriety is really important. Right? It's going to determine whether or not you use again, for sure. But about 30 to 40 days after the chemical is out of your body, you have to sit back down with that journal of yours, right? And have a very long discussion about what has to happen to your attitude now, right? The attitude's going to be different when you're trying to get off of a chemical than it is, all right, I need to completely rechange, my life. If you've been missing the other shows we do about the brain, it's a bummer because there's some really relevant stuff that we've been talking about. But we talk a lot about how trauma gets imprinted on us, right? Because of how our brain works and because of how our long-term memory storage works, right? And we go through, we talked about on this morning's lifeboat. When something traumatic happens to you, there's a refractory period of time between you get the phone call that you lost a loved one and everything just melts, right? You feel like the world is over. You don't know what to do. You're walking in circles. From that moment to the moment where your emotions level back out, right? Back to what we would consider air quotes normal. That's the refractory period. It's different for every person. It's different for every kind of trauma, right? There are people who live the rest of their life in the refractory period. You hear me? There are people who are traumatized who never, ever get over it. And I don't mean that they don't learn to live in it. I mean, they don't get over the event. You can spend the rest of your life in the refractory part of trauma. And if you feel that is you, I'm not your guy. And I don't mean that there's nothing I wouldn't do to help you, but you need a professional. You need to talk to somebody that, if you've been suffering with trauma and you feel like the emotions have never got off of what that feeling felt like when the trauma was live, if you're reliving that every single day, then you need to go talk to a professional. You really do. Because that's no way to live. For those of us who are able to actually get the refractory period ends, when it does, it doesn't mean that we're good. It doesn't mean life is perfect. What it means more often than not is we've gotten to a point now where we're beginning to accept the reality, right? Because there's a new reality after every trauma, right? I was in a car wreck and somebody T-boned the door and it was a traumatic event for me. We say, well, when it's over, it's over. The hell it is, right? For the rest of your life, you're not a person that's never been in a car wreck. You're a person who, when they hear the phrase car wreck, will instantly start thinking about when you got T-boned. Now, in a perfect world, what are you doing? Well, you're journaling about it, right? In a perfect world, you're writing about it in the morning and at night. But yeah, does the average person do that? No. So the average person learns to go to bed with all of that stuff there, right? And they learn to live but they've never gotten it out of here and onto here. And people are listening to me right now going, oh yeah, but I've had things like that in my life, Tommy, and I got over them. Did you? Honestly, did you? Or is it just no longer in the refractory period, so you figure it's done? Because more often than not, we didn't deal with it, right? We didn't. We should have, but we didn't. And the things that we don't deal with, right? That's unresolved trauma. Unresolved trauma does different things to different people, and it can cause all kinds of problems in people's lives, right? Even physical problems. You say, I don't even know what the trauma is. I'm sure that there's something back there, but there's so many things that happened to me in my youth. I wouldn't even know which one was the ones that's really screwing me up. Get a 45-cent notebook, right? And start writing in it. And you don't have to start hunting for what it is. Do it just like we talked about the other day. If you didn't see when we talked about journaling, start with the simplest stuffs in the world, right? Write down the name of all of your teachers that you can remember from elementary school all the way to high school and whatever their nicknames are. Stupid little things like this that get you thinking back to a different time in your life. And when you're in the journal and you're writing it and you say, third grade Mrs. Gordon, right? And you start writing down some characteristics and some things and you'll go, oh, I remember the time that she hit so-and-so with a ruler. And all of a sudden, what you're doing is you're peeling an onion. You're starting to look at your childhood. And you're going to get to something in there where there's going to be an emotion where it's no longer just, you're reminiscing. All of a sudden, the palms will sweat. Something's going to happen where you're going to go, oh my God, there's something there. Now, for a lot of us, we probably know what that something is. There's something that happened to us when we were young and we remember it being traumatic as hell. And we think we've dealt with it because we've talked to a couple of people or whatever. It's really worth working through this stuff, and you can do it alone. You really can. I've said this so many times, and I know people think it's a punchline because it's funny, but start writing in your journal. Start talking about the things and describing how you felt, who was there, right? Everything you can remember. If you can remember the smell of the building or wherever you were, the car wreck, but journal about it, write it out. And when you stop and you feel like you can't move, ask yourself, how does that make you feel? I'm not being funny. It's just what they would do if you were in therapy, right? When you sit and you're in therapy and you stop talking, and what do they say? 9 out of 10 times. Tell me, Tommy, how did that make you feel? Doc, if you ask me that again, I'm pulling you off that chair and throwing you through the window. No, but seriously, this is an opportunity for you to begin to work through the problems that you have. This is an opportunity for you to look at your past and maybe figure out where that unresolved trauma is. Right? Here's what's going to happen every single day of your life. You're going to get up in the morning and you are going to walk outside and attack your day. You're going to do it one of two ways. You're going to do it backpacking around an entire life full of BS and unresolved crap, and you're going to carry it with you. And at the end of the day, you're going to go, I don't know what it is, man, but I just can't seem to have a good day. Well, maybe the default settings and all of the things that are going on in your life are all attached to a period of time when things weren't very good. And maybe your emotional quotient sucks. Not your fault, but maybe your EQ, smart as hell, good guy, he's really intelligent. How about his emotional quotient? How's he doing on the old EQ? Well, for a lot of us, we're cripples, right? We're emotional cripples. Come to grips with that. Admit it. And then start trying to figure out how to way to work through it. Because once again, if you're listening to me and you're going, the only reason I drink or do drugs, the only reason is because I like the way it makes me feel. And then I got out of control and that's it. That is the only reason. I promise you that's the only reason. Well, then this should be a very easy road to sobriety, right? I think you're going to find, as most people have, and I've had so many people come back and say to me, I wasn't lying to you, dude. I really didn't think there was anything from my past until I really started to go back through everything in my life and look for those moments that really hurt and look for those moments that left me feeling some sort of way. And sometimes, like in my case, I promise you, when I was just doing stupid little journaling drills and I started to think of a story in my head and I was writing it out, and it just happened to have been a Friday, And I remembered the day, and we were all going to do something that we shouldn't have been doing. And it was drug related stuff. It was a drug I hadn't tried. But it was also a Friday, and I needed to get access to a photocopier machine because I was going to be fixing my report card. It's going to change a couple of grades to a couple of better grades. And I was going to get caught. I knew when I was doing it, I was going to get caught, but I was doing it anyway. But all of this started to unravel onto some emotions that I had that I didn't know I had. And some of the things, looking back through my past, that it got real heavy real quick. And I started to realize that, man, I got some pretty heavy unresolved crap, from my childhood. And then I started talking to some family members and some other people, and an amazing thing happened. I actually started to heal. I actually started to understand some of the reasons that I did the things that I did. And if you don't understand the reasons that you've done things in your life, it tends to make you feel crazy, right? I mean, imagine sitting in a prison cell at 46 years of age thinking to yourself, I got at least an average IQ, right? I'm at least as intelligent as the next guy. My parents didn't divorce. I wasn't abused as a child. I had every opportunity that anybody born in this country could ever pray to have. What the hell am I doing sitting in a prison cell again? Well, when you start to unravel that and you start to get all the way back to the beginning, you start to realize where each of these traumatic things that happened to you led you off in a direction that dominoed for a lifetime. And the last domino that fell landed me in a federal penitentiary. It really is pretty incredible, this journey that we're all embarking on. If that has not sunk in yet, then let me take just a few minutes to open your eyes. If you thought that this sobriety journey was a matter of stopping the drinking, and then that was it, it's not going to work that way. I'm not going to lie to you. It just doesn't work that way. It is the start, right? We all have to quit our substance, but it is the smallest and most insignificant part of your walk in sobriety. It's going to be over within 72 hours to 7 days, right? Depending. And then the rest of your life, right? I mean, you will have forgotten the detox and all the BS that went along with it. You'll forget that within the first month of your sobriety. It's insignificant. Now, trying to live that life after the fact, that's quite significant. It's quite difficult, actually, as well. Let's say something here. Bill Bressett, am I saying that right? Bill Bressett, welcome to the Lifeboat. Really glad to have you. Thank you so much. And as we say in the, people, those memberships, they help the boat help people, which is a pretty cool thing. We've been very blessed that we've been able to help people get on the medical assisted treatment. We're working right now on what may be one of the first times that we might be able to. We're trying to pull this off in another country, which we've never done before. But I've got some people that are diligently working on this. We're trying to get somebody into medical assisted treatment who doesn't live in the States. And if we pull that off, it's going to be a coup. It's going to be a good thing. It's going to open up a whole bunch of new doors for us here at the boat. But I do really appreciate you and anybody that has come over from growing up in Scientology. I was over there today again with my friend Aaron, and we always pick up some new people whenever we're on that channel. And you know what? They've been amazing people. They really have. Look around in the in the live chat right now, and I would say probably 40 or 50% of the people that you're going to see are people that have come over and assimilated that fast. Mark Wages used to talk about this all the time on the boat and over on Wages World. If you've never gone over there, check out his channel, people. It's fascinating stuff. And he's killing it right now, by the way. He is. Mark's Mark's killing it. For a while, he was just going through some stuff, and he wasn't putting up a lot of content, but he's killing it right now in Wages World. But Mark used to talk all of the time about. I'm sorry. He used to talk about the growth of channels, and he would talk about how, when a whole new audience comes on, when you get a whole new crew, it's difficult and it rocks the hell out of the boat or the channel or whatever else you're doing, because there's always a very different mindset between wherever they're coming from and whatever you're doing. And getting that to balance, these people are usually comfortable having come from somewhere else. The attitude with the SPTV crowd and the attitude with the people on the lifeboat, there's really a good deal of synergy where everybody just seems to kind of be on the same page in attitude, right? Which is huge. And Chase the Heat, there are channels that just seem to kind of align with the kind of things that that we believe here on the boat. And you know what? We tend to see each other on all these channels. Marfugal News, if you guys are into prepping and things like that, Marfugal News, Marfugal TV, Marfugal Jams have been great to us as a channel, been fantastic. But it was different, when we started to do some work with them, and we're on the Friends of Marfugal page, and we get some people, and we've gotten some of the most amazing crew have come over from there. But when we first started doing it, there was a very different kind of a feel than there is right now. The people that came over who assimilated were like that, but there was a whole group that came over that did not like how we did what we did what we do on the lifeboat, and a lot of suggestions about changing what we do and how we do it. And we run a drug meeting, people. I sure as hell could do things that would make this a bigger YouTube channel. And I get emails every day from people that would love to help us do that. And I want this thing to grow. I want it to grow big as hell, because it means we're helping more people. However, it's not the most important thing. It really isn't. And we're not going to change up. We're not going to cut down on the number of shows, which is not, because it's not a show. It's a sobriety meeting. And if you know anything about sobriety, right, giving people less chance to show up for sobriety meetings, probably not such a great way to help people stay sober. So, but the Growing Up in Scientology crowd and all of the SPTV people, any of them I've met from any of the channels, there's definitely a feel that if you wander into their comment section, you might not know you weren't here. I mean, there's some unique verbiage to whatever happens to be the subject of the day, because there is a definite vernacular for all things Scientology. By the way, I don't hack on religions. I really don't. I don't beat on anyone's religion. You can believe whatever you want to believe on this planet. You really can, unless they seem to do everything they can to destroy families. In which case, you don't get that pass anymore. Because I had somebody who wrote to me and said, you really seem like you're beating on this religion. If you believe Scientology is a religion, you haven't spent a whole lot of time looking at it. I'm sorry. It's not a religion. The phony that started it would have been the first to tell you that too. But they certainly get a lot of tax breaks that way. But so back to attitude, people. How do you do it? Is there a magic wand that you can wave to change your attitude? It's really the question, isn't it? Because if your attitude sucks, right? How do you go from having a bad attitude to having a good attitude? Well, for me, it was actually part of an entire ritual, right? Well, when I started looking at all of the things that people might say about me, that was one of the things that I thought, how would they describe me in terms of like having an attitude? And I was mean. I was not a particularly kind person. And a lot of that had to do with my surroundings, right? That was nurture, not nature. I think I was born, into a family of, we're very nice people, but I lived in a world for such a long period of time where you had to do whatever you had to do in order to survive. And you had to do that every single day. And that hardens a person up, changes a person's belief system, and it certainly changes a person's attitude. So when you begin to get sober, the gratitude thing was the first thing that I worked on, because the whole, I want to take over the world and I'm going to go out and fight this drug war personally, and all of those kind of thoughts were probably not very realistic when I first started getting clean. Right. So the only thing that I could pull out day after day was gratitude. I could get up in the morning and I could say, you know what, my daughter and my son are healthy. Right. My mom and my dad are still alive, which was a miracle because, I'd been in prison a long time. And at the time, my dad was still around. And, that was a gratitude thing every day. They're still here. Right. My family still talks to me. Like I had a bunch of crap that I could write down that was legit. I am super grateful to have all of these things going for me when I'm trying to get sober. And I'll tell you something. I don't care how bad you're doing right now. I don't care how many things you think. You've got plenty to be grateful for. Seriously. If you just have to start with the fact that I can fill my lungs with oxygen, right? Because I know people that can't. There are people that are at the end of this cycle, and they're fighting for every day that they got. That's not you. Trust me. There's things to be grateful for. If you got to take it down to its basest, right? I can still eat. I can still sleep. Start being grateful. Start working on that attitude of gratitude. And in the beginning, that's about all you need, because the journaling and the making lists of who you want to be and writing down the goals that you're going to do and all of those things that we talk about once you get to base camp, all of those things are going to come. And we do a ton of shows on. There's a ton of things you can go back and look through the archives because we've done a bazillion shows on it. But how about that attitude to get you through that dry out period? Right? You have to literally start to visualize the fact that you can be sober. Another thing that I have found in doing this is that I have never, and I do mean never, spoken to somebody that did not believe that their particular brand of addiction was unique. I'm not exaggerating. Everybody. And I don't mean everybody thinks they're worse than the next guy. Very often you'll talk to people who think they're not even close to as bad as the next guy. Well, I'm an addict. Like I know I'm an addict, but I'm just not like any of these addicts. I mean, holy crap. This Tommy dude was stealing stuff to get high, robbed banks. One of the most difficult things for me was the realization that I was just like every other drug addict in the world. When you find yourself in prison, like the first, my first real attempt at rehab, not that I hadn't been to a bunch of them and thought I was trying, but my first real attempt at taking this crap seriously and changing my life. I had to do, I had to do this while incarcerated. And it's an amazing thing to be surrounded by so much hate under the best of circumstances, to just be surrounded by an attitude that the only way to describe it is just hatred. You can feel it. You can smell it. You can taste it. You can see it. You can feel it. It's everywhere. And that was a really unbelievable challenge to try to maintain a positive attitude when every single person that you run into has got a crappy one. This was where Q and about 4 other people really became key, right? Having a group of people that you can talk to is absolutely essential. I had a cellmate at the time when I was first trying to get sober. I had a cellmate, and his name was Tyler. And Tyler was trying. He wanted to get clean, but he was still using the needle. And he would, I would say to him, I don't want to watch you get high in the cell. I can't stop you from getting high because you're my cellmate, but I'm not going to watch you stick a needle in your arm. So you need to figure out how to do that when I'm not around, right? Because I don't have any desire to watch that. That's a huge trigger or whatever. But when he didn't have dope, or when he was on, because he would go 4 or 5 days, like he would try and then he would relapse for a week or whatever. But when he didn't have dope, I had somebody right in the cell so that like from 9 o'clock until the sun came up, I had somebody there that also wanted to quit. And if you can surround yourself with people that want to quit, even if they're failing at it, if you can surround yourself with people who want to quit, with people who want to make themselves better, if people that are not happy with the status quo, they're not cool with where they're at right now, Well, if you can surround yourself with people like that, then you've obviously greatly increased your chances of success. And if I have to explain why that is, then you're making me nervous. It should be pretty damned obvious that the more people that understand what you're going through and the more people that can empathize and sympathize with what you are going through, the better a chance you have for success. This is why people who don't come out of the closet, so to speak, and admit their addiction fail. They will fail. Because what you're saying right from the word go is, well, I'm a failure and I'm an embarrassment. And I can't let people know I'm trying to get cleaner. They think I'm a piece of crap. Well, what you've already told yourself, right? You're a piece of crap. How come most people can't get sober? Because they tell themselves they can't get sober before they freaking start. I'm not kidding. When people say to me, well, I'm not like them, Tommy, like you don't understand. I know you got people on the boat that are injured, but my injuries are so much worse than their injuries. And at that point, I got to say, you know what? I got a girl from Australia whose back is disintegrating. It's turning into sand. Like, I'm not joking. We have a girl her spine is literally disintegrating. I mean, if we're gonna play the wow, how much pain, it's not a game you want to play. There's always somebody that's worse than you. And by the way, she's not on dope. So there's always somebody that's worse. There really is. You're unique as a human being. As a drug addict, I promise you're not unique. I don't care how much dope you're doing. I don't care if it's because of pain. I don't care if it's because of whatever. You're not freaking unique. You hear me? You're not. Everybody does this, and they all think they are. I thought I was. Ain't no way anybody's doing as much dope as I am. Doesn't make a difference. It doesn't. Because once that 72 hours is over, whether you had to get a gram out of your system or I had to get 6 grams out of my system, we're both starting the next day with no dope in our system, right? Plain and simple. And now we better start really working seriously hard, the both of us, on our attitudes. Better start reprogramming, or we're both going to fail. Plain and simple. You have to reprogram your attitude. That's it. How do you do that? I did it by journaling. Constantly. In the beginning, the journal went with me everywhere I went. And it was awesome because in prison, everywhere you go, you don't go anywhere, right? But the places that you will go, like they'll say, we're sending you to medical. Well, that means you're going to sit in the damn waiting room like you would in a regular hospital, except now you're in with a bunch of convicts and they don't care about customer service. So they could bring you down there at 8 a.m. and they could leave you there till 2:30 and nobody cares. So I would bring my journal. And anytime they put me off somewhere where life was just going to suck, I would bust out that journal. And quitting the dope and the divorce and all of the things that affected my life, nothing has ever affected my life more than me writing in that journal. Journaling has been the biggest life changer for me ever. Absolutely ever. And nothing else will ever touch it. Because this is self-discovery. All those books you read and all of the stuff that they sell about the journey of self-discovery, and people are buying ayahuasca, right, or doing DMT or psilocybin to go on a hallucinogenic experience so that you can discover, right, more about who you really are. You want to discover who you are? Get a Bic pen and a 45-cent notebook. I promise you. You think you're going to figure out who you are in the jungles of South America, tripping your balls off? I'm going to be really honest with you. I think you got a much better chance in your bedroom with a pen and a notebook. It's also a lot safer, right? You're not liable to jump into the Amazon and not come back, right? Journaling. You want to work on your attitude? Figure out why the one you got now sucks. For real. So right at the top of a piece of paper, because I know I'm going to have people who are going to email me tonight that say, I don't have a good attitude, but I have no idea what you're saying about journaling. How is that going to fix it? Tell you what, right at the top of the page, I have a crappy attitude, right? You know you have a crappy attitude. You know your attitude's not good. Try to tell me when the first time or the last time you remember having a decent attitude was. Right? At one point you had a good attitude, and at one point you didn't. Where was that line? At what point did you just become that person where your attitude kind of sucked? Like, I have conversations with people who don't have a problem answering that, right? When my second husband left, right, and they start in, or when my first wife cheated on me, and they know when the shift was. Well, then it shouldn't be too hard to go back and start taking that apart, right? And you may have to do some really uncomfortable things like forgive people for things that you thought you would never forgive them for. You might have to actually grow up, right, through this process and realize that forgiveness isn't saying it's okay that you did to me what you did to me. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is, I'm not letting this bother me anymore, man, right? If you look up the actual root, it comes from to give away, right? Honestly, forgiveness. It comes from the, the Latin or the Aramaic, to give away. You're giving away that burden that you're carrying around. You want to change your attitude? Figure out what hate you're carrying around and get rid of it. You say, but Tommy, this guy is such a dirtbag. Do you have any idea what he did to my family? You're not saying to him, we're cool now. I'm forgiving you. You and I, we can go out and have a couple of drinks. Hell, you can come home and date my sister, right? That's not what we're going with here. That's not the desired effect. No. What we're doing is we're giving that burden away. And you say, I just don't know how to do that. Well, what are they guilty of? Because I get emails from people that say, how could you possibly forgive somebody for something like the R word? Somebody that does something like that to a human being, or SA, right? Someone that assaults somebody sexually. No, you're not forgiving that person. You're not saying it's okay. You're saying, I'm not allowing you to rent any more space in my head. And I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to hand this burden off, right? The Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 in the Danny Masterson case, they were about to hand that off. Who are they going to hand it off to? The Department of Corrections, state of California, right? Here, I'm done with him. I'm not carrying this anymore. Yeah, I'm going to have to cope, and I'm going to have to learn some coping skills. I'm going to have to talk about things from my past. But this anchor that I'm carrying, I'm not carrying it anymore. That anchor is Danny. He can go to prison. They can carry him. And there are times where that's not an option. Maybe they're not going to get punished. There are people in my life who I handed over to God. Now, you don't have to believe in one, but I do. So for me, I was like, God, I'm not doing real well with this. I'm not doing real well carrying this around. Why don't you deal with her? For real, I don't want this anymore. I want this out of my life. I don't want the pain or the anguish. I don't want the hate. I'm not a guy that runs real well on hate. I start going that road, nothing good happens, right? I really need to do everything within my power to stay positive. When I do, really great things happen, right? I've had a positive attitude for the last 4 years of my life. I realized I've been sober 8. I did not have a positive attitude for the first 4 years. I tried, but it was a day-to-day thing. Like I would have to fight every single day. I would have to do affirmations. I would have to do all kinds of stuff. For the last 4 years, I haven't had to work at it. I haven't. I have a positive attitude. There are days my attitude sucks. I get working on it. And usually by noon, I've pulled the nose back up. I've gotten a lot better at realizing when my attitude sucks. You say, well, how do you do that, Tommy? When you're talking to yourself, right? When you're having conversations with yourself. Like I forget my keys and I say things like, nice freaking job. Okay, well, I'm in a bad place. If I'm talking to myself like that, right? Well done, Tommy, you idiot. Yeah, if I'm talking to myself, or if I'm chastising myself, or I'm doing any of those, I need an attitude adjustment. By the way, if, Tommy, how do you adjust your attitude? Well, the first thing I do is I start working on gratitude. And I won't lie to you. If my attitude is in a really bad place, Joe Walsh, life's been good to me so far, at about an 8, right? Just crank it up. And that riff, that first opening riff, takes me back to laying on a floor at my parents' house with my feet up against their huge entertainment system that had the record player and the 8-track and the radio and all of that stuff in it. That was made of wood. It was looks like a ship. It was just massive. And I remember laying on my back with my feet up against it, listening to American Top 40 as they played Life's Been Good to Me So Far. And I remember that song just to this day. It just takes me back. And it will always change my attitude. And almost everybody has a song that they hear, right? That it comes on the radio, like Full of Hope, right? She hears the first couple of notes to Sweet Home Alabama. And I know that song. She's got a lot of songs actually, but that one for sure is one that just changes your attitude. Crank it. You got something that makes you happy? Use that crap. I would ride that to the beach, right? I do. That song, that honestly, that's pulling out the big guns. If I'm just having a really bad day, I might have to listen to it 2 or 3 times in a row, right? I'm sure a lot of you have Alexa. Go tell her what song you want to hear. Use the things in this world that you don't have to get high on to change your attitude, that you already know change your attitude, right? If I have to explain these things, then you're not working hard at trying. How about petting a cat? Are you kidding me? Science will tell you it drops people's blood pressure, right? Pet owners live on average, what do they say, 8 years longer? Whatever it is, it's a big number. But pet owners live longer. Why? Because it calms them the hell down and it gives them a good attitude. Pretty simple, isn't it? Right? You massage the toe beans. I promise you, you play with a cat's foot, there's no way you're not getting in a better mood. Right? Taking your dog for a walk. Going outside. Changing your environment. Don't be where you are. You like pickleball? Go play some. Right? You like swimming? Get in the pool. Do things that change attitude, right? And if you find that they change your attitude every day, do them every day, right? Alan Ballantyne walks unbelievable distances every single day. The man's in phenomenal physical shape from doing this, but it is a absolute attitude changer for him. And you know something? When that doesn't do it, the man's on the road right now. He's been on the road 3 weeks, and that's not what they told him. They're doing him dirty. I want to keep it real. They're doing the guy dirty. But if his attitude gets to the point where he knows he's starting to lose it, he calls me. Right? Call your best friend. It works. It will. Because I'll start talking crap about him, right? It's different when I do it. Man, they shouldn't do that to you. You know? So you're traveling on Saturday, that's your day. You know what? Take Monday off. Tell them you had to travel on your day off, you're going to stay home on theirs. Right? And we have conversations. And when the conversation's over, both of us are usually in a better mood. Connection is the opposite of addiction. You got a entire toolkit full of tools, right? There should be a whole small section in the corner of that toolbox that is just there to help you change your attitude, right? Crank on a little music, right? It's aromatherapy, whatever works for you. If you say, Tommy, I don't know what works for me, fantastic, right? Great admission. You're at a solid starting point. If you say, I don't know what makes me happy, I don't know what will change my attitude, great. Let's figure it out. Start thinking through all of the bands that you loved growing up, right? And then think of what your favorite songs were by that band, and then go play them. You only got to play about the first 40, 50 seconds, right? 30 seconds, those opening notes. And if it just puts a big crap-eating grin on your face, right? Maybe that's a song that you can put in the repertoire when you need to change your attitude, right? If it sounds like I'm trying to talk you into tricking your mind, it's because I'm trying to talk you into tricking your mind. That's what we're doing here. The whole thing is always about trying to trick your mind. By the way, Miss Dragon, who is one of our wrenches in good standing and a crew member for a very long time, just hit 1,000 subscribers, which means that she can do all kinds of fun stuff now. She is well on her way to taking on YouTube as a partner, and we could not be more proud of her. If you have not gone over there and hit subscribe to Miss Dragon, the question would be, why not? Somebody put her link up in there. She does great stuff. She really does. She does great stuff. And it's a good combination. It's just enough sort of the same message we do here, plus her spinning some stuff that's fun. So go and check it out for real. We'd like to get her up to that 4,000 hours too. So go over there and check out her stuff, please. That would make me really, really happy. By the way, if you dig music, you need to go to Kathy's as well. And if I could get one of our mods to put the link up to Kathy's site. Kathy is a gifted musician, and she just has a sound, people. You'll groove to it. I go there quite often actually now, and it's something that I don't know. Music has been an outlet for me for a really long time. It's something that it always changes my mood, always, and it doesn't always change it. Sometimes music makes you sad, in the best of ways. I love crying to a good tune. ZW, good to see you. Leisure, I'm glad you're here, buddy. Virginia, good to see you. Quiet Girl, 7th. Let's see who else we got. Hello, Sandy. Horton Thistle. Hey, V. Mel. Chili Phil. Z-Dub. Carol, good to see you. Goddess Divine. Awakened by the Looking Glass. Always a pleasure, Jason P. Number 4. That is good news, isn't it? It is good news. I'm proud as hell of her, and we need to support one another, especially when the people are putting up stuff that is positive, that literally I can feel good. Like if I haven't seen her last video, it doesn't matter. She's not putting anything up there that I got to worry about, and I can feel confident saying to people, get over there, check it out. It's good stuff, and that's awesome. It really is. We should all be supporting one another. It's not a zero-sum game. The more of us that are out there having places that people can go for a positive message, the better off we are. You understand? We need more of us, way more of us, because there just aren't enough. I will be back tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. I am doing the morning show. I know what you're thinking. Tommy, that's pretty early. I know it is, but I got no problem getting up to do that. Did we get a link for Kathy up there? Before we go, can someone do that? If you haven't heard this woman play, you really need to, honestly. And it's really cool too, because they're crew members. And then you go over and you see what they can do and you go, good Lord, like the talent is, well, go over and check it out. You'll see what I'm talking about. All right. I will see you all in the morning. I am Captain Tommy, and this here, look at that setup with the foot and the hand and the tail. How does she even get comfortable like that? It's just ridiculous. And that's a cat in a basket. Squirrel nut zipper. Good night, everybody. We love you. Thanks, Squirrel. Good job, Kitty.